Welcome to Talking with the Experts. This is where we discuss great ideas to take your business to the next level. How do we know these ideas work? Well, it's because we're talking with business owners who are using these ideas. Business owners who have years of experience and expertise. All things business by business owners for business owners. And now, here is your host, Rose Davidson.
Hello, welcome to Talking with the Experts. I'm your host, Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com.au. And today it's my very great pleasure to introduce you to Russell Harvey. And we're going to be discussing resilient leadership, building strength in the pageantry of power. Now, Russell Harvey is known as the resilience coach, and he's a dynamic leadership coach, facilitator, and public speaker with over 20 years of experience in leadership, learning, and organizational development. He specializes in resilience and navigating volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. My goodness me, it's getting late in the afternoon. For the past 18 years, Russell is passionate about empowering people to thrive into today's unpredictable world. His mission is to positively impact 100,000 lives by 2025, and he has already made a difference to over 43,000 individuals. My goodness gracious me. Welcome, Russell, to Talking with the Experts.
Thank you, Rose. Appreciate that. Sorry for putting all those words in there that are tongue twisters. It's like
ambiguity. My goodness me, I couldn't get my tongue around that word.
No.
How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. I'm really good. Thank you so much for having me on. And actually, I thought I keep asking the relevant people to update it so that it's not the 43,000. We're up to about 78,212. Of the 100,000 at this moment in time, so we're cooking on gas, is what we're doing. And fingers crossed,
done.
More people today that listen to this, though we can add them to the pot, hopefully.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about your background, Russell.
Yeah, so similar to the introduction. So background, I've just always been interested in human behavior. How come humans do the things they do, or don't do the things that we think that we should do, and pretty much most of my career in learning and leadership development and organizational development. So I'm a coach and I'm a facilitator. It's who I am, and that became it'll be 10 years in July. That became the resilience coach just about 10 years ago. The last role that I had was a company called the Co-op Group in the UK. There are cooperatives all around the world, and not long after I joined the Co-op, there were some serious challenges within the business, and from there, all of my clientele, which were senior leaders within the business, literally came to me with their head in their hands, going, "What on earth do we do?" And well, there's this word resilience, and there's this acronym VUCA, which you have just gone through, and I went, all our solutions are in there. So how to lead yourself and others well in a full-on mad bonkers crazy world is my specialism. I live in Leeds in the UK, gorgeous wife, and love to travel. And so yeah, that's me essentially. I love talking about resilience as well.
So how do we master resilience as a modern leader, Russell?
Yeah, so it does take some effort. Okay, but we've got to try and find a way for you to engage with your resilience in a way that's enjoyable. So it's not a pill that you can take, unfortunately, Rose, to just sort of go, right, I can do this one thing and I'll master my resilience. So when anybody ever asks me exactly that question, so Russell, how do I build resilience? I go, well, there's this resilience wheel. It's got 7 bits to it. When you make the decision to engage with your own resilience wheel just forevermore, the rest of your life, and get each aspect of that wheel into a good place, you will be building and growing your resilience so that when you face into life's challenges, you're better equipped. And actually, a lot of the time, what you view as a challenge shifts into something else because you're so better equipped. Prior to building your resilience, you would sort of certain situations would have a negative impact upon you, but after you've grown your resilience, you go, actually, do you know what? This thing happened, but I didn't realize that it was a challenge because I just faced into it really well, essentially. So it's
Right.
the resilience wheel as well is what you need to play
Yeah,
around with.
okay. I've never heard of the resilience wheel, so I'll have to do a little bit of research on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just on my website. It's a build upon all the research from Robertson Cooper. Okay, they've had 5 aspects to this is what you do to be resilient, and I've just added 2 more to it from my own personal opinion, essentially,
Okay.
and that's what it is.
Right. So what are some practical tools that we can use to build this resilience and confidently face leadership challenges?
I think practical tools. There's loads of them, but I think as a leader, it's actually holding a conversation around optimism. So what I'm really concerned about in the world, the resilience world, and this word positive as well, is that it can get a bit toxic. Okay, so my intention around resilience is I absolutely don't want anybody to think about it of finger pointing of you just need to be positive, you just need to be resilient. I don't like that. It's not where I'm coming from. Okay. So optimism, all right. So if you look up the dictionary definition of optimism, it uses the word positive to describe it. Okay.
Mm.
So, but what individuals and leaders need to be able to good at is actually holding an optimistic conversation. So optimism is grounded in reality. Okay. So it requires emotional intelligence and it requires empathy and it requires compassion to do so. So grounded in reality is both the things that we know are not going well, the things that we're not enjoying. We can have conversations where we sort of say, actually, I'm a bit worried about this. I'm a bit frightened about this. Or being able to say to your boss, actually, I think the decisions that we've made to face into this challenge, they're not right. Can we talk about them? So an optimistic conversation is being able to talk about the difficult things without it turning into like a downward negativity spiral. But also what's grounded in reality is what's good about us, what's right about us, what our strengths are, what our skills, behaviors, capabilities, attitude, experiences, mindset. That's the reality too, what's good, what's great about us, how we'll face into the challenges. And when you do that well, then you actually talk about the challenging stuff and then also shift into the things that that you can do to face into it. And as a result of that, you get genuine hope, real hope. And as a result of that, you feel positive about actually facing into your challenges. So that's one of the many ways that, part of being resilient. I think I answer that question differently a lot of the time, Rose, about practical tips, tools and techniques, because there's hundreds of them. But today, it's literally, let's talk about optimism just right now and see what people think about it. But there's loads more as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is good to be optimistic of the future and your growth in your personal relationships. And we all like to feel a little bit optimistic about how things are going. But sometimes it can be challenging to lose that optimism because there is that finger pointing and you're being told that you have to be optimistic and you're told that you have to be positive when you're not in that frame of mind.
No, you can't. If you feel a particular way, you can't just magically feel another way. It's just because somebody's told you. I think one of the other ones as well is one of the dimensions of the resilience wheel is the lovely word of adaptability. So it's good for people to understand the nuance between adaptability and agility. That these are all words that get thrown around in the resilience world. You need to be this, you need to be that, need to be the other. So there's some good research that shows that those people that spend a third of their time engaging with being adaptable, which is open to change, then they get themselves into this place that we call thriving. Rather than just coping and surviving, they get themselves into a different, much better place. But it's also interesting. So openness to change does not necessarily mean doing change. So I'm open to it. Okay. And yeah, I'm open to ideas, but it's like, so you actually gonna do it? That's agility. Being quickly making the choice to actually do a behavior change, that's agile. And so when you engage with your adaptability, just openness, curiosity, what ifs, exploring things, then you also get better at your agility as well.
Mm.
So, tips, tools, and techniques is to just spend time doing things differently. So if there's a particular route that you take to work, take a different route. If you're always drinking for one particular coffee cup, pick up a different one. Literally anything and everything that you can think of to go, okay, I'm just going to do something slightly different today. And then you just keep opening yourself up to the possibility of like, okay, I'll try this, I'll try that. Spend a little bit of time with individuals whom you have a different value system to. And even if it's uncomfortable for you, just spend time listening and going, okay, I don't like what's being said, but I'm going to sit with it and just allow it to permeate. I'm not going to just reject it or rail against it. I'm just going to sit with it and just go, okay, there's a different opinion to me. So let's let it happen.
Yes, yes. We all have to be open to differing opinions, and just because you have a different opinion doesn't mean that I shouldn't not like you because your opinion's different than mine. Just
Yeah.
means that we happily disagree to or agree to disagree on a certain topic.
Absolutely. And the reason that I'm talking about all the things in a particular way is because of the way in which I define resilience. So I'm not a fan of the term bounce back. Okay, so I describe resilience as springing forward with learning. Now, I appreciate it's a play on words, but if people that are listening and watching now can actually wrap their heads and hearts around this definition, then that will absolutely enable them to build and grow their resilience. So this is about on, a daily, weekly, monthly basis, as you go through life, it's finding a way that you find interesting and enjoyable to pause from all of life's events, essentially. And pause is listening to a podcast. Okay. Pause is going for a walk. Pause is watching telly. Pause is doing a hobby. Pause is actually just staring at the wall and, with a blank mind, essentially. Um, and in those pauses, it's about having the reflective conversation about what are the behaviors that I've been doing recently that are serving me well, and what are the behaviors that I've been doing recently that haven't been serving me well, and how do I find a way to do more of the behaviors that are serving me well, essentially. So springing forward with learning, and that learning needs to be aligned to your purpose, which is one of the dimensions of being resilient. Henceforth, why I've got the purpose of positively affect 100,000 people by the year 2025, because it's part of my value system, who I am. It what gets me out of bed each day, and I'm reflecting on that all of the time. So springing forward with learning is a doing actionable thing, but it's in a way that you really got to find interesting, enjoyable. It hasn't got to be a slog. It needs to be something that you're willing to engage with, essentially.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And how can we turn adversity into a growth opportunity?
Yeah, well, through exactly what I've just talked about then, that springing forward with learning, essentially, it is about, part of resilience is recovering from adverse events, recovering from challenges. So it's in that recovery, you've got to give yourself some time with your existing levels of resilience. So when you face into a challenging event, it's like the idea that your levels of resilience have been reduced. There's some water analogies. You've got, a resilience bath or a resilience reservoir, essentially. If you've got a challenging event, then your levels of resilience are going to be reduced. So you need to recoup those losses by engaging with the resilience wheel to re-energize yourself and recuperate yourself and restore yourself. All words beginning with R, it seems, Rose. I'm Russell. It's resilience. There's all these words with the letter R that are in the front of it. They just seem to be there all of the time. And so, exactly from that, it is understanding this thing about what's the difference between a fixed and a growth, mindset. All of the great work from Carol S. Dweck, if people aren't familiar with her, which is, that growth mindset being about, it's that simple sentence inside our heads of, I don't know how to do that yet. essentially. So, but I'm going to find a way to do something. I'm going to find a way to learn. I'm going to find a way to recover from this. I'm going to find a way to see what my recent experience is, something that I can learn from. Yeah, and a lot of the time it is way easier said than done. We don't necessarily give ourselves enough time to recover from certain events because some of life's challenges are horrific, and you absolutely do need to give yourself enough opportunity to do so. Another sort of resilience person, and right now I've forgotten their name. One of the things that resilient people do is they do understand that life isn't fair. They know it. They understand that life isn't fair and horrible things happen to really nice people, but they get that. The other thing that they do is that they find the good in really unpleasant situations. They're able to sort of take a step back and get some perspective and just sort of actually find the good. And they role model optimism that we've already talked about, essentially.
Yeah. So tell me about this VUCA, this volatility,
Yeah.
uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. Some people are sick and tired of hearing about it. Some people have never heard of it. So yeah, so the VUCA, so it's got a military context to it, essentially. It got brought into the business world in about the 1990s. The reason that I like it is it's a much better way of talking about this sentence of change is constant. Okay, so yeah, we can walk into a room and say change is constant and go suck it up, deal with it. But that doesn't really help in any way, shape, or form. So the VUCA model is when you look behind it. So I'm going to do 8 business buzzwords right now, 4 of them we've talked about. But VUCA is the fact that the world is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And VUCA prime is the counteraction to it. To go, we need vision, understanding, clarity, and agility. So they're all buzzwords, but when you look behind all 8 of them, there's definitions and then there's understanding and then there's specifics and clarity around what they mean. But it literally is I think it's still a really great framework for understanding actually why change is constant, how you face into it, the leadership capabilities and the performance skills that you can build as a leader and as a human to face into it. And they all link to resilience skills as well. So they're intertwined, the resilience and the VUCA piece. But it's a really great way of looking at the fact that change is constant. And some businesses really have embraced it and have understood literally how to grow their businesses and utilizing this framework.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of businesses, unfortunately, just keep doing the same stuff every day. They don't
Yeah.
look at anything outside of the norm that they've been doing for 10, 20 years. I mean, I've worked for organizations where I've made suggestions on how they could perhaps improve their processes and streamline them. And, I was just told off for being, too forward. So to me, that organization is not willing to change and not willing to adapt to the changing environment.
No, and that's conversations I have with individuals and businesses all of the time. And so it's like when people do make suggestions, it's actually understanding, is it a cultural norm of the whole business that we don't like suggestions, or is it actually that individual and the line management relationship or the relationship with who they said it to? So you have businesses that aren't necessarily great at doing change, but then you've got pockets of teams who are brilliant at ideas and conversations, and they're doing something brilliant over here in this bit of the business. And other businesses, it's the general norm for us to do, listen to and be open to and keep discussing how we can do things differently. But then there might be certain individuals in certain departments that them as a line manager, they don't like it, even though it's part of the cultural norm. So it is. It's really fascinating. And for me,
Yeah, it is.
sorry,
It
carry
is.
on. Yes.
And I think, if you're going to move forward in your business, you've got to be open to change and open to ideas and open to suggestions because that's how your business grows.
It is completely. And I'm reminded of the fact that from the last sort of couple of World Happiness Report surveys, there's something ridiculous like that. Whenever we ask a human being, how are you? Their response, 80% of the response about how they are is down to their relationship with their line manager.
Mm.
So, if you've got a really fantastic quality relationship with your line manager, then your answer to the question, how are you, is informed by that. And if you've got a challenging, difficult relationship with your line manager, it informs the response to how are you. So this is why when I talk about resilient leadership, that's one of the many things that I sort of say. So just think about the responsibility that you've got for all of the people that are under your remit. When we ask them how are you, a massive chunk of their response to that question is down to you.
Yeah,
So
absolutely, it is. Yes, it is. It's
what would you like to do about that?
It should be how you treat your the people on the floor is how you'd like to be treated yourself. That's what my belief anyway.
Yeah. And it's just I do so much, line management and leadership development. And, so much of the time when we sort of say, okay, let's just have this conversation about leadership management, what is it? All of that is informed by their previous relationships with their line managers. People have either had unpleasant experience and realized that's not the way to do it. People have had unpleasant experiences and have not realized that they've actually taken on some of those behaviors themselves and are doing them. Some people have literally just have happened to have woken up or been born with a good idea of, isn't it about just treating people well and then just get it, and everybody else is sort of just learning along the way as well.
Absolutely. Now, if you want to learn a bit more about Russell and what he has to offer, you can find him on Facebook at The Resilience Coach. He's on LinkedIn as Russell the Resilience Coach. And on his website, it's theresiliencecoach.co.uk. Russell, would you like to share anything else with our audience today?
Yeah, just one of the many tips and secrets about being resilient day to day is about playing to your strengths, the things that energize you. So when you play to your strengths, it builds natural resilience and natural confidence. So if people can just be starting to think about day to day in their job role or in life, how much of their time on a weekly basis are they enjoying what they're doing? Then when you're at that bit where enjoying it, that's more than likely where you're playing to your strengths. So spend some time just really understanding where on a particular week or in a month am I enjoying what I'm doing. And the secret of that is to try and find more ways to do those things. A strengths-based approach is a massive part of actually what I do in the resilience piece. It really often blows my clients' minds when I do a psychometric with them and their eyes go to the things that they think they need to be better at. And I go, you're not energized by those. You're not really ever going to want to spend loads of time doing them. So to start with, we don't want you to spend your time looking at the things that de-energize you. I want you to spend your time doing the things that energize you. And so my clients go, huh, mind blown. I absolutely thought I had to spend my time just doing all these things that I've got a lower score on. I go, no, we'll come to those later. But now these things that you got higher scores on that you love doing, do more of them. And they're like, oh God, wow. Okay, so you want to spend time doing the things that I love doing. Go, yeah, that's what we want you to do. So that's, yes, final thing to share. If you can just reflect upon the things that you're doing week by week, discover the things that are really floating your boat and you're enjoying, and you need to harness those more often.
Absolutely. That is brilliant advice, Russell. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, what can people find on your website?
Yeah, so there's podcast series which takes you through all the aspects of the resilience wheel. So there's an episode on each of those. There's loads and loads of blogs. Okay, it's just about all of the things that I've talked about, and everything you can think of about leadership and management. They're in there, and just a fair bit of information about who I am, what resilience, and what VUCA is. That's on the website. And just look out for also just all the social media I do, because each of those are little videos or little descriptions of just ideas and tips. So, you connect with us, follow us, all those things, and just see what you enjoy. Let me know what's working for you.
Wonderful.
And when we positively affect you, we can add you to the 100,000. That's what we can do.
Absolutely. Russell, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you, Rose. Appreciate you having me on.
You've been listening to Talking with the Experts, hosted by Rose Davidson. Make sure you have a look at our back catalogue over at talkingwiththeexperts.com, and be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on any episode. We look forward to your company next time.